The lockdown has been really difficult for startups. They've had to cut jobs, cut costs. Is it about to get worse from here?
Well, I don't think anybody is going to be spared from this. So startups will have to, just like any other company, will have to find ways to cope. But, as the saying goes, with crisis, there comes opportunity. And certainly we're seeing several of our startups benefit from the changes that are happening today. And, pursuing these opportunities to create value for their customers. So, it's really how you handle the situation that will, spell the difference, whether you make it or not. And again, we're seeing several companies find ways.
So where are these opportunities?
Oh, yeah. So they're everywhere, right? So one of the things that people often ask is like, what's the new normal? Right, and there are things that are happening today that maybe we weren't paying attention to before, and all of a sudden, because of things like lockdowns or circuit breakers, people have to adjust. One very concrete example: we have a company called Odl, and what Odl does is it helps restaurants generate what they call off-premise revenue. Right, so if you can imagine a typical restaurant, most of their revenues will come on-premise with diners dining at the restaurant. And for the longest time, Odl was trying to convince restaurants to find other ways to generate revenue off-premise, whether it be takeaway or delivery and the like. And in January, prior to all of this, they were doing, let's say, $15,000 a day worth of GMV, and restaurants were slow to adopt. Now, when circuit breaker happened in Singapore, all of a sudden, all of the on-premise revenue of restaurants went away, and they were scrambling to find different ways to generate revenue. And so Odl saw its revenue grow from sort of $15,000 a day to as high as $600,000 a day. Today, after opening up of Singapore, we're back to around $200,000 a day. And that's an example of the new normal, right? Like now, restaurants will not go back to neglecting off-premise revenue. And does that make sense?
Paul, you focus on B2B. Why does this strategy make sense?
Yeah, so what we like about B2B is typically these kinds of companies have very good unit economics. They typically have very good gross margins. Now, they take a little longer to sell. But what we've seen is when you're solving a real problem, customers will reward you. And you can make decent margins off of that. There's not as much pressure for spectacular growth. When you have consumer technology companies, usually with very thin margins, if at all, the pressure on those kinds of businesses is to constantly grow really fast. And so in times like these, if you're solving a real problem, customers will reward you. And it becomes less discretionary spending, but more essential to helping a business
Paul,
grow.
Just give me an idea here, though, of what the next big thing is going to be for you. You just raised this fund, $111 million. Tell us about that and about the next thing you're looking at.
Yeah, so there are a lot of opportunities here in Southeast Asia. If I think about Southeast Asia, there's Singapore and the rest of Southeast Asia, and all of the so-called unicorns that we have today tend to be very consumer-oriented. And what we're hopeful is that we will see enterprise-focused unicorns emerge out of the region, whether they come from Singapore serving large enterprises with global markets, whether the West or staying here in the East. And across Southeast Asia and emerging markets, we think that the context is unique enough, the macros are compelling enough to create unique models. So I think where you capture the most value is not necessarily being a copycat of something that's been created in the West or in China or in India, but it's finding sort of the new thing. And We're seeing interesting deep technology companies emerge out of Southeast Asia. We're seeing very interesting SME-focused businesses. So some examples we have are e-fishery in Indonesia, which is helping aquaculture farmers sort of increase their yield. We're seeing B2B sort of FMCG-focused marketplaces like Grocery and Gudang Ada in Indonesia and the Philippines. For enterprise software, we're seeing companies like Novade serving global customers on construction site management, or Silent 8 doing anti-money laundering for large banks globally. So that's what we're excited about. We're really excited about enterprise and deep tech coming out of Southeast Asia, serving the regional markets or even global markets.